Hey everyone, this is an interview with Digital Bandidos, the new publisher for the Town of Salem franchise. There's a lot of people that went into this interview, and so I wanted to mention them before we begin. Just a huge shout out to Dragon, Dial, Flosky, Niles, Adagia, DJF, Wildcard, Mystic, and Shadow for helping formulate the questions, and especially a big thanks to Dragons and DGF and Mystic for a lot of the big bulk of the questions came from them. What you're going to hear is an interview with the executive producer, Lance, who's also co-founder of Digital Bandidos, and Sydney, who's community manager. And I will let you all hear, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Can I have both of you kind of introduce yourselves and who you are for Digital Bandidos, and just so that everyone at home knows who we're talking to?
Yep, certainly. So I'm Lance James. I'm co-founder and executive producer at Digital Bandidos.
Hello, my name is Sydney, and I am the community manager for Digital Bandidos.
All right. So I'm gonna kind of as a good opening question, because as the research as a community we've done, Digital Bandidos is new. So can you give a little background on the start of the company and what past experiences you have working in game development? And
Yep, certainly. So Digital Bandidos is a brand new company formed earlier this year. It was co-founded by Steve Escalante and myself. We previously worked at Versus Evil for the last 10 plus years. While at Versus Evil, our team worked on numerous games with developers all over the world. Put out some amazing titles like the Banner Saga franchise, which is 1, 2, and 3, Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire, Guild of Engineering, First Class Trouble, and quite a few more. Aside from founding Versus Evil, Steve previously worked at Bethesda Softworks for 5 years, working on the Elder Scrolls. Before that, he was at Gamecock with the Devolver founders, and 10 years before working at indie game development studios. And 10 years before working at indie game development studios. I worked at Tryon Worlds before I was at Versus Evil. I worked on Defiance. I worked on Rift, plus several other unannounced projects. Before that, I played Age of Empires 2 professionally with the World Cyber Games. As a new company, we are quickly ramping up our team with experienced team members. And joining us, who is also at Versus Evil, is our community manager, Sydney. Sydney led our community efforts on multiple Versus Evil titles. Along with her community management work, she also led quite a few of our charity partnerships, and she was a big part of our influencer program, the Heralds, at Versus Evil.
next question: how familiar are either of you with the Town of Salem franchise?
So, like Lance mentioned, with our previous work at Versus Evil, we did publish a couple games that were also social deduction titles, which would be Evil and First Class Trouble. So, because of that, we ended up doing a lot of market research that centered around, the Town of Salem franchise, and other games that were related. So, in terms of like business stuff, we were doing the market research and whatnot there, but then also, on a personal level, most of us have actually played the game before as well.
The next question: how did the partnership between Blank Media Games and Digital Bandidos come to be?
I guess it's a couple different things. So as a team, Steve and I and Sydney, and we've played Town of Salem over the years, and it's been something that, as Sydney mentioned, that we've looked at before, and when we've been developing and working on other titles. So Town of Salem is something that we've always considered an original success story, especially for indie game developers, right? It's a game that has a lot of appeal to us now, quite frankly, just because of its history, but also because of the genre. But as we look at the landscape of gaming and what the future of Town of Salem can hold, Blank Media Games has been amazing with their development journey over the years. They've been a very small team that really cares about their games. It's been clear the amount of time they put in it. We hope that we can come in as Digital Bandidos and open up options and possibilities for the game. We're trying our best to enable more of the wish list and community requested items, and even some development requested items from the both the community side and the Blank Media Game side that have been collected over the years. I think you asked how it came to be, and that was we just started talking. There's nothing crazy or any wild story or anything of that nature. It was just someone reached out to Steve, started the conversation, and we went from there. we haven't been very public about things. Many knew we were launching a new publishing company, at least from the business side. But it's been kept kind of behind closed doors until recently in our first publishing announcement, which is working on the Town of Salem franchise as a whole.
Okay, so that kind of answers a good chunk of the next points, but I guess that also ties into this sounds like it will expand to not more than just Town of Salem 2.
Yeah, I think as a whole, we are a publisher as Digital Bandidos. We want to make sure we take care of the game, which is Town of Salem 1, Town of Salem 2. We're going to look at traders. We're going to look at it all, and as a whole, as a franchise, and as community. That includes commercial decisions on pricing, product launches, platforms, everything that's encompassed with that, right? So all of it. Right now, we're wrapping our heads around all of it, quite frankly, to see what the best things are for each of the games and each of the products. Quite frankly, I guess an example would be one of the top things we're kind of looking at, just on feedback, is the Battle Pass that came out recently. And quite frankly, we're going to make sure it's first and foremost, should it exist, and then if it does, what is the value of it? What's the price? The timing? How does it get delivered? How does it work? Those type of decisions and things we're going to look at. Our future plans and other products and all that stuff that we do, just like other publishers, will be announced once we are ready. But that's I guess when we're ready, we'll share those announcements.
So I guess this is more a question for Sydney, because we've had Shape forever doing all the community management stuff. Will you be working alongside Shape in some of the community stuff, or what is your role compared to what we've seen Shape do the past decade plus?
As far as I'm aware, it may just be me at this time, and I will be assuming a lot of the previous community manager duties.
What is Digital Bandido's stance on AI Web3?
Yeah, absolutely. So at this time, we do not have an official statement on AI and Web3. We do want to note that all of the current branding that you do see for Digital Bandidos is absolutely a placeholder while an artist is working on our official assets. So as we're coming into our public launch, we are in the process of creating our personal and professional branding. So please do stay tuned for that launch.
We know as a community that, and we have from previous developers that worked at Blink Media Games, that there were several staff layoffs after the what we were told as a result of the announcement. So what is the circumstances that you could provide based on that, and what we could be told as a community?
Yeah, so more information will be coming soon, but I will say, Digital Bandidos as a company, we didn't force any layoffs. It's kind of due to the nature of a larger decision for the brand, and things can change, and that can include certain contracts being terminated. Currently setting up talks with folks whose contracts ended to discuss potential opportunities for continuing work. It's kind of depending on what they were doing and what they want to continue to do going forward. Certainly, and totally can understand why people would assume the worst, especially when there's not a lot of information out there. But we're actually, hoping to ramp things up more. I think I said earlier, we see a lot of potential with the Town of Salem as a franchise, and what we could bring in to both new players and existing players in the current audience. I think it's, I think we're thinking, and we hope that's what people will, be excited about, is we're thinking more features, more roles. Keep polishing, keep quality of life things going, keep polishing on some of the things that may be hampering players or causing players to stop playing currently. That's pretty much our mindset at this point.
Are there any other changes that we can expect from this partnership that haven't been addressed already?
I do think we've covered kind of a lot of like the overarching themes and whatnot, but we do want to really ensure that we're here to actually help and make improvements where we can, expand things where we can, make adjustments where we can. We're looking to expand the IP as a whole by adding in more content and more features. And this isn't really something that's going to happen overnight or super quickly. As we're getting set up with things, ramping up with folks, like we mentioned, talking with the previous contractors, we're getting up to speed with, things like code base, how things were ran and whatnot. But we do already have a lot of teams looking at, different things like the control schematics, chat options, platform options, like we mentioned already, the battle pass, and, just us figuring out our path forward together with the developers. And thankfully, we do have a lot of ideas to look through and use regarding, things that we'll be looking to adjust and add to the game. So thank you guys all for that feedback. We really appreciate it moving forward.
All right. And then the last question, when/where can we find more information about you all and your projects moving forward when that becomes available?
Of course. So all our official links, we'll share a link directly, but it will be allmylinks.com/digitalbandidos. So that is where we will be sharing any information, announcements. We'll go through those official channels. So make sure you follow there to catch any updates from us. We will likely be expanding platforms and, including more information there too.
All right. If there's anything that either of you want to say before we close shop, feel free to do so now.
Mainly just, thank you guys, and certainly would appreciate patience. There's a lot of moving parts here, quite frankly, and it's not going as smoothly as some of us had hoped. No problems, just things are tedious, right? So people at certain companies may be on holiday because of the summer or what have you. So things are, little road bumps here and there, but patience will be great with the community. And, we're here to help. I think it's the big one that we want to get across. Like, obviously, we've been watching the Discord like a hawk and the Steam forums like a hawk. And there's a lot of assumptions going around, and just they're wildly inaccurate. And, like I said earlier, I can totally assume, I totally can understand when people assume the worst, especially when we're not putting out any information. Some of that we have to wait for legal reasons or business reasons. And unfortunately, it's not ideal, but it's the unfortunate reality of the situation. But hopefully going forward, once we kind of get into this a bit more, we can be way more upfront with a lot of information we're sharing. And not only that, include everyone a lot more. I don't want to speak for Sydney, but we are very, very much on the community side of publishing, where we want to include people. We want to hear ideas. We want to hear feedback. Over time, I think that's how we've determined we get better games, quite frankly, is by working with everyone and trying to determine, get those ideas, get that feedback, good and bad, to help improve things as a whole. So, just be patient for a little while longer. We'll have more information coming out soon. We do have a press release coming out that we're going back and forth on feedback and legal lines and whatnot. They'll explain a few more things in detail. But just ask questions. We'll try to answer what we can when we can. But patience is a good thing to have at this very moment.
Absolutely echoing what Lance said, specifically regarding the community part. So, my role as a community manager is to be the bridge between our player base and our developers and other, business parts of our operations. So, being able to share all of your feedback, all of your ideas, suggestions, and whatnot is an absolutely critical, part of what my role kind of brings to the table in, blending the player wants with what we can possibly do on sort of like the back end side. So we appreciate everyone's patience and your understanding in kind of this transition period.
Hey everyone, I want to thank you for watching and listening to the interview with Lance and Sydney. The answers and the question document I will link below, and I'll also link all the socials that Sydney talked about in the interview. That is all for me, and I hope to catch you again here pretty soon.